studio for a little bit is State Representative Alan Seabaugh. So you walked in about 10 minutes ago, right before top of the hour, and Erin was talking. She had an AP story, and she read some of the AP story about, well, it was reporting what had gone on yesterday, the final day of the session, and you said, that's not exactly right. She said, what do you mean? You said, it's pretty much all wrong. Okay, so what did AP say? What are they reporting? And what are the facts?
The House wanted to withhold spending $100 million in case of a mid-year shortfall, while the Senate only wanted to hold back $50 million to avoid deeper cuts.
Leave the numbers out of that, and you might be correct. Here's essentially where we got there. Here's how we got there. Over the last 10 or 15 years, the Revenue Estimating Conference, what they do is they're supposed to look at their crystal ball and predict how much money we're going to have to spend in the upcoming year, and that's what we base the budget on. The problem is they are always wrong. They have literally never, ever been right. They've been wrong by an average of $200 million per year. So what the House did when we passed the budget the first time is we withheld $236 million because higher ed, the state departments, they all said, look, mid-year cuts are much, much more difficult for us to deal with than a reduction at the beginning of the year. Tell us what we're going to have and give it to us throughout the year. If you tell us we're going to have 100 and in halfway through the year, you take away 25%, it's much more difficult to annualize that over a couple of months. So what we said is, look, okay, if they're wrong by an average of $200 million a year, we're going to withhold $236 million. And if that money does come in, it can be spent on roads and infrastructure projects. It can be spent. The Constitution lists 6 things that the overcollections can go to. So we withhold 236. Then, lo and behold, what do we find out? After the House passes the budget on May the 4th, by the way, we sent the Senate the budget on May the 4th. After we did that, the Revenue Estimating Conference came out and said, oops, you know what? We were over by $27 million. So they reduced the 236 turned into 209 or something like that.
Is that Revenue Estimating Conference, do you feel, ever used as a political tool by?
Completely. It's completely controlled by the governor, and they never put a number out that the governor doesn't like. But here's the problem. So when you say the Revenue Estimating Conference is wrong, they literally have already been wrong once this year. So spending 100% of the number that they give us is a mistake. And it's just, somebody's got to be the adult in the room and say, look, we've got to stop spending 100% of a wrong number. So
the governor told you guys to grow up.
Somebody's got to be the adult in the room, and I promise it's not John Bel Edwards. Here's what happened. The numbers you had were, the House number ended up being, after the Revenue Estimating Conference, I think we were like 206 or I think we were 206. So the Senate sends it back, not only spending the whole $100 million, but pushing $157 million Medicaid payment to next year, which makes the deficit next year bigger, completely fiscally irresponsible. So the House says, no, what happened, they were at 0, we were at 206. So we said, okay, fine, we'll meet you in the middle. We'll meet you. Well, first we said, we'll meet you at 1, we'll go to 150. They said, no, 0. Then we said, okay, we'll go to 100. And they said, no, 0. They never moved.
Never budged.
Never budged. The $50 million.
Was that at the governor's direction, you think?
I'm sure he controls everything the Senate does. But the $50 million number that you had, they said, look, here's what we'll do. We're going to spend 100% of the wrong number. But what we'll do is we'll put some language in the preamble of the budget that says we're going to tell departments, hey, don't spend everything we send you just in case there's just please don't spend it all.
Okay.
The $50 million was a complete fiction. It wasn't real numbers, and that was just talking points so they could spin the story.
When I hear Senator Greg Tarver tell us, which he did in the 6 o'clock hour, that he's working, the Senate wants to work to give state workers a pay raise. Alan, how on earth do we even discuss a pay raise when we're in the financial crisis we're in?
Because we're not in a financial crisis. The year that we're in right now, the budget we're in right now is the biggest Louisiana has ever had. The budget that the House sent over was a 3.4% increase over the current year. We didn't cut anything. We increased spending by a little over 3%. For the current budget, which is the biggest Louisiana has ever had.
Hold on a second. Stop. Pardon me. Let's run through those last 2 or 3 sentences again, slowly and with emphasis.
The fiscal year that we're in right now, the 16 to 17 budget.
Gotcha.
Is the biggest Louisiana has ever had, with the possible exception of the 2008, because we had all that federal money after Katrina. But this is the most state money that we have ever had. This is the most that we've ever had to spend in the year that we're in right now. The budget that the House sent over, that they're saying was going to close institutions and kick people out of hospitals and all, complete lie. It was an increase in spending over the current year. We didn't cut anything. We increased spending.
You said something on the floor that I know you probably were angry that day, but do you know how many people loved what you said? You got up when y'all were talking about the gas tax. You never voted on it. And you said, we have 4,700 DOTD workers. We could cut 3,000 of them, and it wouldn't make a difference. I'm afraid, Alan, that could be the case in a lot of state agencies.
It's absolutely the case in a lot of agencies, and directors and people in those departments will tell you, look, we could do with some belt tightening, but please don't cut my budget, because we really don't want to. But if you have to, we can. And the problem is that the governor has a built-in factor. They call it the continuation budget. It's if you spend $100 this year, it's the same example that Trump used in D.C. If you spend $100 this year and $100 next year, that's a cut, because they have a 3% growth factor built in
every year.
And when you're maxed out, when you're spending 100% of that number, and revenue doesn't increase, that means you got to raise $400 to $500 million of new taxes every single year. And the House said, we're not going to do that. We're gonna back it up. We're going to hold firm. And we originally tried to hold firm on last year's budget and say we're not going to increase anything. That's what the standstill budget that we originally passed was, not an increase over anything. Mm-hmm. It was just holding firm of last year's. We actually agreed to move it up a little and we moved like 3 or 4 times trying to meet the Senate halfway. The Senate every single time said, nope, our way or the highway, on marching orders from the governor. And I believe this whole thing was orchestrated to make the House look bad, because they're trying to replace the speaker and trying to make him look bad. And I don't think it's going to work, because, the House members are the ones that have to vote. They know what happened. We put forth a good faith effort. We put forth an offer. They put forth an offer. We moved 3 times. They never moved, not one time.